This is a story where a detective and his assistant blend romance and comedy into something uniquely charming. To truly understand it, one must look deeper into their tale. In a high school, a student is helping her teacher by carrying some files to the upper floor. She feels exhausted by the task, finding it all rather tedious. As she walks up the stairs, her foot suddenly slips. Just as she is about to fall, a boy appears out of nowhere. He jumps in to catch her. Her life flashes before her eyes, but all she sees is homework and cafeteria pudding. Her face freezes mid-fall in an expression of pure shock, as if someone paused the moment. The boy, Mitomo Tasuku, saves her with one hand and catches the flying files with the other. The girl is stunned and can't help but call him amazing. Then she notices his tie and realizes he's her classmate. He introduces himself as Mitomo Tasuku and explains he has recently transferred. Without hesitation, she starts asking him for more help, assuming he would agree. But Tasuku immediately refuses, leaving her confused at how quickly he rejected her request. She blinks like someone just got rejected by Google Translate. He tells her that he only wants to be at the top and runs off, leaving her staring after him in disbelief. And then he vanishes like a motivational quote after Monday morning. To understand this sudden refusal, the story takes a turn into Tasuku's past. Back in elementary school, he had formed a team with a group of girls who acted as young detectives. They used to solve cases in the park. One was athletic, another highly intelligent, and the third incredibly hardworking. Tasuku had been their only assistant, and everyone admired the team. He saw working with them as an honor and enjoyed a joyful childhood. Even after moving away from that area and separating from them, he continued working hard, taking on task after task. Eventually, he began to realize that he was just being used. He finally understood what it felt like to be a Wi-Fi password, shared by everyone, valued by no one. That realization made him determined to rise to the top on his own, through his own efforts. Now in the present, walking confidently with that goal in mind, Tasuku suddenly gets knocked to the ground by a girl who crashes into him. He mutters to himself how no one should be that skinny. She apologizes and helps him up, but he's curious to see who bumped into him. As he turns around, he finds 3 incredibly beautiful girls standing there. One of them asks if he's the transfer student named Tasuku. He hesitates for a second, like every person who's ever signed a gym contract. He confirms, but inside he's puzzled. How did these cute girls know his name when he doesn't know anyone here? Before he can think more, one of them steps forward and asks if he can write his name down. Confused, he sees her hand over a folded piece of paper. When he asks why, she casually makes an excuse and urges him to sign it. He does so, still unsure. The girls start whispering among themselves, saying the mission is complete, which only deepens his confusion. Still, there's something oddly familiar about them. Nearby, a few boys recognize the trio and whisper that they are the same legendary detective team, Akechi, Izumi, and Aruse. The boys say they always admired them. Tasuku freezes upon hearing those names. It feels impossible. His brain crashes like a vintage laptop running Windows 98. But before he can process it, the girls come closer and take him with them. Later, they sit him down and explain everything. Yes, they are the same detective team from his past. Tasuku struggles to believe it. Akechi Hiyori comes and sits beside him, clinging to him as she explains that she had been watching him for a long time. Tasuku scoots away like a cat avoiding a bath. She criticizes his poor observation skills, and as she speaks, she leans against him, pressing into him. He pulls back slightly, reminding her that he's not a child anymore and she shouldn't do that. Akechi replies that she sees him like a sibling. Tasuku panics and tells her not to call him that. Then Aruse Tuka joins in, commenting that Tasuku is still as adorable as ever. He tells them they've both changed a lot. Teasing him softly, she asks what exactly he thinks has changed. He quickly changes the subject, saying she's been teasing him since they were kids. Aruse laughs and playfully apologizes, adding that she's glad they finally reunited. Just then, Izumi Ritsu angrily asks Tasuku where he had suddenly disappeared to, and why he didn't even bother to say goodbye or throw a farewell party. As she steps closer, he quickly tells her not to get so close, and Izumi freezes in shock at his words. Tasuku remembers that deflated look on her face all too well. Trying to divert the mood, he asks where they even are right now. Akechi responds, asking if he's curious. Tasuku states that he asked only because she looked mysterious. She explains that the place is called the Detective Club. He's still not convinced this isn't a secret anime fan club in disguise. Tasuku reacts with mild surprise and questions the legitimacy of such a club, wondering who approved it. The girls explain that this club is a continuation of their old detective team, now used to help people with various problems. Hearing this, Tasuku casually wishes them good luck and says he has nothing to do with it anymore. But the twist arrives when Akechi informs him that he is now a member of the club. His mouth falls open, and the water in his hand spills back into his glass. He demands to know when this happened. They explain that Aruse, using her clever brain, tricked him into signing a form, thinking it was blank, when in fact it was his membership application. His soul leaves his body, files a complaint, and returns with a lawyer. Tasuku stares at his name on the paper and feels his mind spiral as he shouts that this is clearly fraud. But the girls tell him there's no turning back now. Izumi, with a disappointed tone, reminds him that she had warned them not to do anything which could make Tasuku disappointed. In the end, they all agree that he is once again their assistant, just like old times. Just then, Aruse announces that they've received a request and must take action. Despite Tasuku's protests and his refusal to act as their assistant, the girls drag him along into the city. This time, the case involves a man who has been avoiding his girlfriend for weeks. The girls' mission is to find out if the man is secretly involved with someone else. Izumi innocently asks what NTR means. Aruse begins to explain that it refers to being in an inappropriate relationship with another woman, but Akechi quickly silences her and moves them all forward. The group feels excited, especially because it's been a while since they received a proper case. Tasuku, on the other hand, still refuses to accept his role and tells them again that he wants to focus on reaching the top on his own. But the girls ignore his words like a skippable YouTube ad and move on. Suddenly, they spot their target. Everyone quickly takes their positions. Akechi decides she'll chase the man and takes off using her athletic legs. Tasuku, still unmotivated, stops Izumi, who accidentally brushes her skirt against a bicycle and lets out a moaning-style scream. Every pigeon in the area flies away in protest. Tasuku tells her to stop making noises like that, but before he can finish, a football smacks into her head and sends Izumi flying into a pit, leaving only her legs sticking out like a signal antenna aimed at the sky. She looks like a Wi-Fi signal desperately asking for help. She asks Tasuku for help, while he questions what on earth she's doing to herself. Just then, Aruse calls out, saying she deserves a favor too since she's the club's smartest girl. She requests Tasuku to carry her on his back due to her weak legs. Tasuku instantly refuses, shouting that it's impossible, but Aruse, with trembling legs, keeps pleading. Suddenly, Akechi crashes into Tasuku, mistaking him for the target. They lock eyes for a second, just long enough to ruin his entire weekend. Upon realizing the error, she awkwardly explains it might have been a mistake. After 3 hours of chaos and humiliation, the group realizes they have completely lost the target. Tasuku, still feeling odd, wonders why these girls, who should be more impressive now, are instead causing such a mess. In the park, a group of boys watching the girls make mocking comments, saying that although they're cute and popular, they belong to that weird club known as the Three Unfortunate Beauties. Hearing this, the three girls freeze and begin trembling. Even the nearby vending machine beeps in sympathy. Tasuku, now realizing something's wrong, pauses to think. It hits him. They're about to be expelled from school. The three girls sit sadly on a bench and explain to him that they created the club without proper permission. Instead of solving problems, they've been causing more, which earned them the nickname the Three Unfortunate Beauties. Tasuku teases that maybe they should drop the beauties part. Izumi then shares that the teacher gave them one final warning: if they cause another problem, they'll be expelled. He initially laughs it off, but quickly realizes they're serious. He coldly says they're finished, prompting Akechi to angrily shout at him for being so mean. He then asks why they didn't just quit the club. Akechi explains that she hates the idea of quitting and insists that a detective can't unleash her full potential without her assistant. Still, Tasuku doesn't want to return to being their assistant, but at the same time, he can't ignore the sadness on their faces. So this time, even if just for now, he agrees to help. Tasuku gathers the group and reveals his plan. They need to identify the affair partner. The problem is, they don't know how. Taking out his phone, he tells them they'll use the world's greatest tool, social media. He starts searching for posts that match the profile of their target. After some effort, he successfully finds the person's account. However, the challenge now is how to pinpoint their exact location. Before he can think further, Aruse steps up and makes a call from her home. Tasuku suddenly remembers. Aruse comes from a noble family, something he often forgets. Moments later, she informs them that she's gathered valuable intel. When Izumi looks at the details, her eyes widen in surprise. Tasuku asks how she knows this person, and she casually replies that it's nothing special, she just knows the person's daily routine. Being hardworking, she had once memorized the entire student body. Now, without wasting time, they prepare to leave. But a problem arises. Not everyone is as athletic as Akechi. As they step onto the streets, they suddenly spot their target walking with another girl. Instantly, the group begins secretly snapping pictures of him to keep as evidence. Just as they're quietly celebrating their success, the man notices them. Furious, he runs up to punch them. Before the blow lands, Tasuku instinctively jumps in front and takes the punch himself. It's the kind of heroic moment that deserves background music with a complimentary first aid kit. The girls freeze in shock. The punch is strong enough to knock Tasuku to the ground, and blood begins dripping from his nose. The man angrily accuses them of spying. Tasuku insists that he's fine, even though he clearly isn't. As the man flees, the girls rush to Tasuku's side. He wonders why he took the hit for them. After all, he swore he wouldn't be their assistant again. Confused, he mutters that his body moved on its own. It really hurts now, but at least the evidence is safe. The case, he thinks, is basically solved. But Akechi isn't satisfied. Since the man hurt their assistant, she refuses to let him escape. Without warning, she dashes after him. Tasuku tries to stop her, but she doesn't look back. Relying on her athleticism, she speeds through the streets. Meanwhile, Aruse calls for a car to help with the chase from another route. Tasuku still wants to avoid more chaos, but Izumi asks where they're going. Aruse explains that very few people in this town can outrun Akechi. Eventually, the man will realize this and try to blend into the crowd, so she tells the driver to take them to the main street. It's now Izumi's turn to act. She uses her binoculars to track the target. At the far end of the street, the man stops, thinking the chase is over. But he's wrong. From the other side, Aruse and Izumi arrive, with Tasuku beside them. The man stands stunned. He can't believe they found him, thanks to Aruse's prediction. He tries to flee again, asking who they even are. Just then, Akechi jumps on him from behind and pins him to the ground. She declares that they are from the detective club. The three girls speak in unison, promising they won't let someone who hurt their assistant get away. Tasuku watches quietly and realizes these girls truly are great detectives, just as he expected. But he still wonders, even with the case solved, why they seem so desperate. Suddenly, the police arrive and demand to know what's going on. Things go from bad to worse. The entire group is taken to the staff room where the principal reviews everything. Because they involved the police due to a misunderstanding, they now face possible expulsion. It hits him like a surprise math test on a holiday. Tasuku questions why he's even getting a warning. Once they exit the staff room, Akechi grumbles that even after solving the case, they're still being treated like criminals. It turns out the fault wasn't with the man, but with his girlfriend. She was cheating on him. Everything has now turned into a complete mess. The girls approach Tasuku and apologize. They admit they only wanted him to stay in their club, but won't force him anymore. They tell him he's free to go, but this time he stops them. He explains that they may have caused chaos and failed in many ways, but at least they tried. Meanwhile, he only stood in their shadow. That's why now he wants to join the club again. Hearing this, the girls' faces light up in disbelief like someone just proposed marriage, in Morse code. Tasuku adds that this time he won't be their assistant, but their rival as a fellow detective. The girls are stunned silent. And so Tasuku's new life as a detective begins, alongside the same childhood friends. The team is the same, but now their teamwork is about to evolve. Yet the real story only starts here. All three girls think the same thing. Now that he has rejoined the club, they'll have to work harder. But this time, each one of them secretly hopes that Tasuku might become her personal assistant. Because in truth, the bond between a detective and an assistant, that's called romance, and each girl believes it might be her turn. While playing football, Tasuku skillfully dodges every player and moves straight toward the goal. He runs like a man being chased by self-worth issues. His teammates watch in surprise, clearly impressed by his athletic abilities. But even as they praise him, they start comparing him to Akechi's athletic skills and saying that Tasuku's smartness and hard work still don't match the detective team's level. Tasuku, aware of his efforts, reminds himself that while in the detective club others are clumsy, he is the true genius among them. Striking a heroic pose, he declares silently to himself that he'll surpass them all and prove he deserves to be at the top. He strikes a pose so dramatic, even the goalpost looks embarrassed. The boys nearby burst into laughter, watching his dramatic pose and pointing out that he mumbled to himself and lost the ball again, still weird as ever. After classes, the detective team returns to their clubroom. Spotting Tasuku cleaning the room, they apologize for being late due to a teacher. Seeing him so focused on cleaning, they curiously ask what he's doing. Tasuku proudly states he's cleaning his surroundings as a top leader should. His cleaning technique is 1 part discipline, 2 parts passive aggression. The girls fall silent in awkwardness until Aruse gently compliments him, saying the room looks neat now and thanks him. Tasuku suddenly yells back that he didn't do it for her, he just found the place messy. He's not cleaning for approval, he's cleaning for vengeance. As he looks around, his eyes land on a suspicious box sealed with numerous stamps. Curiosity kills the moment, and nearly the club's legal standing. Izumi tries to stop him, but by then he has already opened it. Inside, he finds a pile of applications, apology letters, and even expulsion notices. Somewhere, a school counselor senses a disturbance in the paperwork. Shocked, he asks what all this is. Izumi fumbles through excuses, but Tasuku senses something's wrong. Aruse eventually tells him it's part of their history. He yells that their club has a black mark on its record. His face goes from "I'm the main character" to "I'm part of a documentary." He knew the club was in bad shape, but not this bad. When he questions how they managed to keep the club running after such incidents, the girls hesitate and make vague excuses. He's beginning to suspect the real mystery is how the club still legally exists. They don't want to tell him the real reason. They remember their past, back when Tasuku was their childhood assistant. As kids, the girls admired him deeply for always helping out. Tasuku had even declared he'd be their lifetime assistant. Since then, they've wanted him by their side forever, but as an assistant. To them, the assistant is like the pillar of a family, taking all the detective's burdens. After Tasuku mysteriously disappeared as a child, they never found a replacement. That loss led to the club's downfall, but despite everything, they kept the club alive with one shared goal: to make Tasuku their personal assistant again. His title of assistant sounds more like a life sentence now. In other words, they see him as the missing piece in their romantic lives. They've continued detective work, trying to prove they're worthy of having Tasuku as an assistant, and that's why the club still exists today. Tasuku finds this intense atmosphere unsettling. He suspects their true motive is to defeat him, using the club as a means. Tasuku blinks like someone just got hired into a cult by accident. But he also realizes that if they get expelled, he'll have no one to prove his superiority to. So for now, they all decide to align their goals and focus on getting the club officially recognized. Right then, Akechi raises her hand and declares that to collect official requests, they first need to promote themselves. But the problem is, how do they collect requests? Their last attempt ended in a messy failure. That's when Aruse says she has an idea. She explains that she can contact Aruse groups to identify people with study, financial, or relationship problems. Then they can promote the club so people start sharing their problems, and in return, they'll receive new requests. Tasuku doesn't like the idea. He argues that they shouldn't bother others just to get requests. Akechi then steps up and announces that she'll handle the promotion part herself. She leads the group to the broadcasting room, while Tasuku, confused and cautious, wonders what kind of plan she's about to carry out now. As they enter the broadcasting room, Akechi cheerfully announces that she's here to hijack the place. Nothing says "trust me" like entering a room and announcing a hijack. Inside, members of the broadcasting club are already present and appear visibly disturbed, especially recognizing this as the same detective team that previously broke one of their pieces of equipment. Tasuku, watching closely, realizes that the team even has a criminal record in their past. Akechi tries to reassure everyone that they won't cause trouble this time, but just as she says this, Izumi gets distracted and trips over a wire, causing nearby equipment to fall onto her. The club's reputation drops faster than Izumi's sense of balance. Tasuku sighs, watching as chaos unfolds once again. Akechi insists that everything is fine, though the scene clearly suggests otherwise. Tasuku shouts, questioning how such a disaster could happen in just a few seconds. Crying, Izumi explains that things always go wrong whenever she trips. Every awkward fall seems powered by emotional damage and clumsy plot twists. A broadcasting club member warns them that the equipment in the room is expensive and must not be damaged. She threatens Izumi, saying if anything happens again, she'll immediately huff and zip her. Akechi doesn't fully understand what that means, but silently agrees not to provoke her. The girl questions whether they're there just to wreck the club. Tashuku calmly explains that they're not. Meanwhile, Aruse becomes curious about the broadcast button and wonders what it does. From behind, a boy warns her not to touch it without permission. But as Tashuku rushes to stop her, they bump into each other and fall, accidentally turning on the broadcasting system. In the fall, Tasuku's hand lands on Aruse, and the room freezes in a second of awkward silence. Suddenly, she lets out a cry, which, due to the active broadcast, gets transmitted across the entire school. His soul leaves his body the moment he hears Aruse's voice go public. He panics and quickly pulls away, asking her why she did that. Aruse, still lying on the floor, teasingly calls him a naughty boy and reminds him this is not the time for such things. At that moment, a class teacher enters and becomes furious upon witnessing the mess, once again caused by the detective club. The group flees, only to be caught later and forced to write yet another set of apology letters. After the disaster, everyone decides to call it a day and head home. Tasuku, staying behind to clean, notices a box lying in the room. The next day, while the detective team is trying to brainstorm how to promote the club, they notice Tasuku walking toward them, holding a flyer. He hands it to them. It's a promotional design for the club. Surprised, the girls ask how he made it. He explains that while cleaning the previous day, he found a box containing materials like old election posters, texts, and pictures. He took some elements from each and combined them to create the flyer. He thought he was crafting a legacy. Turns out he was scrapbooking a disaster. Akechi becomes overjoyed, and the others admire the design. He casually mentions that the combination of different ideas made the final version look good, which amazes the three girls. He adds that the flyer might help them receive a lot of requests. Feeling impressed, the girls tell him he's really reliable. The more they praise him, the more he feels like he's getting lured into a part-time job he never applied for. Tasuku suddenly realizes he has been acting like an assistant this whole time. As this thought sinks in, he places a hand on his head, visibly disturbed, while the girls simply laugh at his reaction. He silently reflects on what he just did and said, confused by how naturally he's falling into the role. Meanwhile, the girls watch him fondly, each thinking the same thing, that this is exactly why they want him to become their assistant again. When he questions why they're all staring at him like that, they quickly change the topic with random excuses. Tasuku sits quietly, thinking that it's been over a week since they posted the flyer, yet no requests have come in. Everyone around him seems bored, just wasting time. Suddenly, Akechi bursts through the door with force, announcing that she has finally received a request. He's trying to look proud, but the door creaking off its hinges is doing a better job of announcing their success. But in her excitement, she also breaks the door. He watches silently, surprised at how easily the girls ignore the broken door just because they're happy over a single request. The way everyone celebrates, you'd think they solved a murder, not just got a cat case. Akechi proudly declares that the request came because of the flyer, prompting Tasuku to strike a proud pose, acting like a genius for designing and sharing it. Curious, he asks what kind of request it is, and Akechi mentions that it's a little crazy. Everyone wonders what she means by crazy, while Tasuku, standing near the window, daydreams about how he'll soon prove he's the top detective among them after solving this case. They head out to fulfill the request, but Tasuku's enthusiasm dies down the moment he realizes it's about finding a lost cat. He already feels exhausted before even starting. Akechi explains that it's fun because it gives them a legal excuse to play with wild animals. He wanted to leave a legacy. Turns out it's just paw prints and stray fur. Tasuku starts comparing the nearby cats to the one in the poster, while Aruse and Izumi are still busy getting more flyers printed, hoping more requests come through. Half of him is looking for the cat, the other half is Googling how to quit clubs politely. Akechi suggests they should observe the area where the cat was last seen, so she and Tasuku stay behind to wait. Tasuku sarcastically comments that it's surprising to see even someone as reckless as Akechi sit still, which offends her and she snaps back loudly. They sit waiting, and Tasuku notices how restless Akechi looks. Her body keeps twitching as if it's resisting the stillness. She twitches so much, he's starting to wonder if she's powered by caffeine and bad ideas. He mumbles to himself that she really can't sit still. Just then, she spots a child in trouble. Without a word, she grabs Tasuku's hand and drags him away. He never imagined getting dragged into chaos would one day be so literal. He follows, confused by her sudden action. They reach a tree where a child's balloon is stuck. Akechi tells him to leave it to her, while Tasuku, panting from running, wonders how they're supposed to help. Akechi then climbs onto his shoulders to reach the balloon, saying this is the only way since she can't reach that high on her own. This is the weirdest piggyback ride he's ever been emotionally unprepared for. Tasuku feels extremely awkward, his body trembling slightly. Akechi almost loses balance, but manages to steady herself and grab the balloon. She returns it to the kid, while Tasuku, now flustered, scolds her for not respecting his personal space. Akechi just laughs it off, making Tasuku suggest that they should go back now. But Akechi then spots another person in trouble and rushes off again. One after another, she starts helping multiple people in the area. After a while, she happily tells Tasuku how great it feels to help others. Tasuku, now visibly drained, reminds her that their main request, the missing cat, is still unresolved. Akechi suddenly remembers and declares, based on her detective instincts, that the cat must be nearby. Tasuku yells in frustration, telling her to stop treating him like an assistant. He adds that he doesn't trust her instincts, right before they both hear a faint meow coming from a nearby building. They look up and are shocked to find the cat hanging from a balcony, its paws slipping and ready to fall. The issue now is how to reach that height. Akechi immediately says she'll handle it and leaves the rest to Tasuku. He doesn't understand what she means at first. Then he watches in disbelief as Akechi starts climbing the building using her athletic skill. He's not sure what's more shocking, the cat in danger or Akechi treating physics like a suggestion. But the cat begins slipping, and in a split-second move, Akechi leaps and catches it midair. Now both of them are falling toward the ground. Realizing what she meant by leaving the rest to him, Tasuku immediately slides forward and catches her just in time before she hits the ground. If he had been a second late, things could have gone horribly wrong. Tasuku tells her never to say again that she's leaving everything to him. Akechi calmly explains that she meant she was leaving the rest just in case the cat escaped again. Heights don't bother her at all. Still, as expected, he had jumped in to save her, showing his concern. Cradling the cat, she teases him by asking, "Who's a reliable assistant?" He yells back, saying he's not an assistant. Just then, Aruse and Izumi arrive with printed flyers and are surprised to see the two of them already finishing the request. They begin explaining why they were late, but Aruse quickly notices Akechi's face turning red. She asks what happened. Akechi instantly holds the cat in front of her face and says she's just flustered because the cat is too cute. She's blushing like the cat just proposed to her, but deep down, she knows that's not the real reason. The next day, Tasuku sits alone, reflecting on how his entire previous day was spent being an assistant. But he quietly decides that he won't let the upcoming tasks defeat him. Just then, Izumi runs toward him, calling him urgently. She drags him to the clubroom. Tasuku, confused by the sudden tension, follows her. When they arrive, he finds the entire team staring at a notice and orders suspending their right to use the clubroom. Tasuku is left shocked. The club had just begun to function properly, and now this. Izumi can no longer tolerate what's happening, so she storms into the student council room with Tasuku and starts making noise, demanding to know why their clubroom has been suspended. Inside, Sudo Rei is seated calmly, a second-year student and executive member of the student council. She explains that they cannot assign a room to an unofficial club, but Izumi refuses to accept this decision. Sudo then states her real intention. She wants to remove the club from that classroom completely, arguing that the room isn't for personal use. She adds that she plans to convert it into the student council's fourth official room, a space where she will be in charge, and it will belong solely to her. Tasuku wonders if this is a student council meeting or a villain monologue rehearsal. He quickly remarks that even that sounds like personal use, but Sudo, full of attitude, simply ignores him. She coldly declares that the detective club is filled with losers and adds that they constantly fail to complete any of the requests they receive. Hearing this, Izumi approaches her in anger, slamming her hand on the desk and glaring at her as she demands that Sudo take back her words. But Sudo remains firm and instead offers a deal. If they manage to complete a task she gives them, she will return the room. Izumi agrees on the spot, saying she's ready for any kind of task. While doing so, she grabs Tasuku and pulls him up beside her. Tasuku awkwardly tells her not to hold him like that. For someone who just got volunteered as tribute, he's handling it with impressive sarcasm. As this unfolds, Sudo quietly observes how close the two seem to be. She then tells them to follow her and leads them to the library's storage room, where she shows them a picture of a specific book on her phone. When Izumi asks about it, Sudo explains that the student council receives all kinds of requests, and this is just one of them. He's not sure if this is a mission or just Sudo's way of getting free labor. They simply need to complete it. Before leaving, she adds that she doesn't have high hopes but wishes them good luck anyway. Tasuku suggests they should complete the task quickly. He says they'll make Sudo regret underestimating them, but Izumi tells him to focus on the job first. As they approach the storage room door, they find it difficult to open. After pushing with effort, the door finally creaks open, and they freeze like it's guarding a dark secret. And that secret is hoarding. Inside are towering piles of books, so many that there's barely any space to walk. The mess leaves them wondering how they'll finish before morning. As Tasuku moves forward, he accidentally bumps into a book that triggers a collapse, and suddenly a heap of books falls onto Izumi. Tasuku's first enemy as a detective turns out to be gravity. Still, he tells himself this task is not impossible. He has to rise to the top. But like a 5-second YouTube ad, his motivation fades quickly, and he collapses in exhaustion. He talks a big game, but his stamina lasts about as long as a loading screen. He grumbles about the overwhelming mess, but then notices something strange: complete silence. Curious, he walks around the shelves and discovers Izumi quietly working, focused, and already sorting books. She's in productivity mode, and Tasuku is just background noise with limbs. He watches in surprise, realizing once again how hardworking she really is. That's her true strength, he thinks. Fueled by admiration, Tasuku gets motivated again. He moves closer and sits beside her, astonished that despite how close they are, Izumi doesn't show any embarrassment and remains completely focused. But the closeness makes it hard for him to concentrate. When he tries to say something, she immediately tells him to wait and continues working. He considers pointing out how awkwardly close they are but decides against it. He doesn't want to trigger a disaster, so he sneaks away quietly. However, as he's leaving, his foot hits a book, and he loses balance, stumbling forward and landing almost on top of Izumi. His escape attempt fails when the floor performs a surprise betrayal. He manages to stop himself from falling, but ends up extremely close to her. Izumi begins to panic slightly, but Tasuku calmly tells her they should just focus on the task. While gathering more books, Izumi mutters that he's a pervert and he defends himself, saying it was an accident. By now, evening has arrived and school closing time is near. Tasuku suggests they should leave for the day, but Izumi refuses. She doesn't want to lose the club Tasuku created, not under any circumstances. Hearing this, he freezes in place, speechless for a moment. When Izumi questions why he's just standing there, he replies that he's simply trying to refocus. He adds that he really wants to complete this request. The two of them start working again with renewed energy. After a while, Izumi's hand touches a book, and somehow they realize this is the exact one they've been searching for. Both are overjoyed, and they decide to come back and submit it in the morning. But just as they prepare to leave, a new issue arises. The door refuses to open. It has gotten stuck in its place, and now they're trapped inside. Of course, the door is stuck, because nothing says bonding moment like accidental overnight detention. Evening falls, and Akechi and Aruse return after distributing flyers, silently hoping Tasuku and Izumi haven't gotten themselves into any kind of trouble. Meanwhile, the two are still trapped in the room, unable to open the jammed door. Izumi explains that her phone has died due to low battery, leaving them without any way to call for help. They're completely stuck now. He pretends this is all fine, but deep down, he knows he's one creaky floorboard away from a mental breakdown. Tasuku tries to keep her calm, mentioning that the student council staff usually comes in early the next morning, so someone will eventually find them. But until then, it's just the two of them. After a long, awkward silence, Tasuku finds himself thinking about strange things in the situation. He reflects on how, during childhood, he used to be closer to Izumi than he is now. As he starts feeling the heat in the room, his eyes accidentally catch sight of Izumi's shirt, damp with sweat, clinging slightly to reveal her undergarments. He tells himself to focus on the bookshelves, but his hormones didn't get the memo. Embarrassed, he quickly turns his face away and suggests they look around for a possible exit. They begin scanning the area. Izumi wonders if they can escape through a window, but Tasuku tells her he already tried, and it wouldn't budge. Then she suggests trying the upper window. Tasuku admits he's not sure if it'll open or how to reach it, so Izumi starts stacking a chair on a table to reach the height, while Tasuku grumbles that he doesn't want to keep doing this assistant stuff. Still, he stands by to hold the table steady. Izumi warns him that if he doesn't hold it right, she might fall. Tasuku offers to switch places with her, but she refuses, always preferring to take the harder path herself. He's trying to be helpful, but every time he opens his mouth, he risks triggering a lawsuit. As he holds the chair, his gaze inadvertently shifts upward, catching an unintended glimpse. He quickly looks away in panic. When Izumi looks down and notices his awkward reaction, she immediately reads his expression and realizes what just happened. Tasuku tries to defend himself, insisting it wasn't on purpose. Mentally, he pleads to the ceiling that he is not a pervert, he is a victim of physics. The mood gets noticeably tenser after this, and Izumi now keeps a very precise distance between them, mumbling to herself in frustration. She keeps a 2-foot pervert perimeter, and Tasuku starts feeling like an exile in his own rescue mission. Just then, he thinks of another way out. He calls Izumi over and suggests they clear the stacked books along one pathway. She doesn't quite understand his logic, so he explains that since this is a prep room, there may be a second door leading to the main library. After some effort, they finally locate a hidden door. But again, they're blocked. Something heavy on the other side keeps it from opening fully. Tasuku pushes against it and calls Izumi for help. She refuses at first, saying she doesn't want to be seen doing something inappropriate like pushing his back. Confused, he asks how that's lewd. It's just helping out. She reluctantly agrees and joins in. Tasuku never thought awkward teamwork would be part of his survival strategy. They count down together, pushing the door in sync, and during the effort, Tasuku's fingers brush against Izumi's hand. His hand brushes hers, and suddenly, physics betrays him for the second time tonight. She turns her eyes toward him just as a final push causes the door to burst open, sending them both tumbling into the other room. Though they're both tired, they're happy to finally be out. He's relieved they're free, but still emotionally trapped in whatever just happened. It's already nighttime. As they catch their breath, Izumi suddenly tells Tasuku she knows he held her hand back there. Tasuku doesn't remember doing so, but she reminds him it happened during the push. He apologizes, but before he can finish, Izumi cuts him off, saying she never said she didn't like it. Then, with a sudden outburst, she adds that next time he wants to do that, he should submit a written application first. Tasuku isn't sure if he just got flirted with or fined. He is left thoroughly confused by her weird response. The next day, they finally submit the book to Sudo. She's genuinely surprised and praises their efforts. But Tasuku decides to add a twist. He reveals something special. Sudo's own student ID card, which he found inside the book. Sudo immediately demands it back, but he tells her he's figured something out. He believes Sudo, who was assigned as the library organization in charge, got distracted while reading this book and used her ID as a bookmark. When a pile of books suddenly arrived, her ID was buried, and instead of admitting it, she used the Clubroom suspension as an excuse to get someone else to find it. Sudo is stunned because his theory is exactly right. Tasuku says he could easily report this to the student council, ID and all. Deep down, he knows victory tastes sweeter when you blackmail someone politely. Sudo, now panicking, begs him not to say anything and retracts her earlier insults. In the end, Tasuku successfully saves the club from suspension. Izumi gives him a cold, well done, which makes Tasuku wonder what changed. Maybe she's jealous because this time he wasn't the assistant, but the detective who solved the case. Or maybe, just maybe, she's still embarrassed about the incident. Tasuku walks through the school with a confident attitude, pleased with himself for solving a recent case. He believes his reputation must have improved by now, but his thoughts come to a halt when he overhears some students giving all the credit to Akechi and Izumi. Confused and disappointed, he wonders why no one is even mentioning his name. Tasuku walks like he's about to receive an award, until he realizes the ceremony doesn't even have his name on the list. Just then, Izumi and Akechi approach from behind, greeting him with a cheerful good morning. Tasuku, still irritated, asks if they always wander around in their uniforms even after school. Izumi casually explains that it's part of their identity as a detective club, so naturally they wear it all the time. She says it like it's a noble cause, but Tasuku suspects it's just because she hasn't done laundry since last week. Suddenly, everyone's attention shifts. A crowd gathers as a luxury car rolls up, and stepping out onto a red carpet is the noble Toka Aruse. The car rolls in like it's auditioning for a royal parade, and somehow Aruse nails the entrance without breaking a sweat or a heel. The students gasp, and even the detective team is caught off guard by the grand entrance. Aruse greets everyone like it's a perfectly normal day. Tasuku, bewildered, asks if she always acts like this. Aruse responds that this is her usual routine. Since she's fragile, she often collapses midway or gets caught in crowds at train stations, so her family sends a car to help her out. Tasuku wonders if her family comes with a built-in drama department and daily backup dancers. As they chat, Aruse suddenly stops and stares at something in the distance. Tasuku asks what she's looking at, but she brushes it off, saying it's nothing. Later in the clubroom, she finally reveals what's bothering her. Lately, she has noticed things disappearing from her desk and has begun to suspect someone is stalking her. Still, she talks about it with an unusual lightness, calling herself a weirdo magnet who naturally attracts odd people. Tasuku finds the situation unsettling and recalls how he used to comfort her when they were kids, especially when she got hurt. The others worry about her, but Aruse calmly declares she'll crush the stalker herself. She says she'll escalate the complaint to the Aruse family's assassination department and use this incident as a starter assignment. Tasuku flinches. Nothing says I have a stalker quite like casually planning an assassination over lunch. Tasuku is confused about what she means by starter and can't help but feel sorry for whoever is stalking her, knowing what's coming their way. Determined, he volunteers to handle the matter himself. Tasuku now regrets volunteering. He thought it'd be like helping with homework, not signing up for the Aruse reality show. Aruse agrees, claiming she already has a plan. Everyone is curious to hear it. The next moment, she's walking hand in hand with Tasuku through the school corridor like a couple, causing all eyes to turn toward them. Every step they take together echoes with gossip, judgment, and at least 5 Instagram stories. Tasuku, flustered, questions what kind of plan this is. Aruse explains they'll put on a fake dating show in public to lure the stalker out. Tasuku can't believe what he's hearing, but she confidently calls herself a genius. Tasuku's danger radar is silent, but his rom-com instincts are screaming. Though Tasuku isn't fond of the plan, Aruse insists there's no other way. Deep down, she admits to herself that she actually wants this. Tasuku, too, starts to feel like Aruse is going off script and enjoying this more than she should. She teasingly asks if her beauty is making his heart flutter. He finds himself trapped in an awkward moment. As Aruse leans in closer, he tries to refocus her, telling her she should be concentrating on the plan, not him. The two stroll out to the balcony, still hand in hand, while Akechi and Izumi secretly observe them from a hidden spot, scanning the area for any suspicious activity. Tasuku isn't sure if they're catching a stalker or just starring in a low-budget dating sim. The pair on surveillance sees nothing out of the ordinary, but can't help feeling strangely caught up in the moment, as if they become involved themselves. Meanwhile, Tasuku and Aruse settle onto a bench near the playground. Tasuku looks around and sees no one that fits the stalker profile. It dawns on him that he might just be flirting here. He tells Aruse it seems like she's enjoying this more than just sticking to the plan. She replies that she's only doing what the plan requires. Akechi and Izumi, still hidden in the grass, continue watching. As Tasuku begins eating lunch, Aruse comments that couples usually do something else during meals too. When Tasuku asks what she means, she leans forward, opens her mouth. Tasuku's brain is buffering. Tasuku panics. He clearly doesn't want to go along with whatever she's suggesting, but Aruse comments that he looks like someone stuck in the mud. Looking at the lunch, Aruse remembers how Tasuku used to bring the same box when they were younger. He explains that he lives alone with his grandfather, so he's gotten used to doing things by himself. Her words, however, make Tasuku suspicious. He starts wondering if there really is a stalker at all. Aruse calmly says that being followed by 1 or 2 weirdos is pretty normal in her family. Her casual line about 1 or 2 stalkers makes Tasuku wonder what family dinner at the Aruses is like. He responds by saying her family is just not normal. Then he boldly tells her she's lying. Without waiting for a reply, he starts eating again. Aruse watches him curiously and finally asks why he said that. Tasuku explains that her face and eyes give it away. It's one of her oldest habits, and he knows it too well. As they talk, Aruse slowly leans closer. Speaking quickly, she reminds him that she comes from a rich family and knows that Tasuku's memory still works perfectly. He tells her to put the brake on her words, but Aruse admits her heart was fluttering for some strange reason. When Tasuku asks why, she closes the distance even more and begins to stare at him. He has no idea what she's trying to do. Akechi and Izumi, still watching, grow increasingly curious. Akechi and Izumi feel like they're watching a romance anime, but forgot they were also the security team. Then Aruse, now inches from Tasuku, bluntly asks if he wants to kiss her. He blushes and panics instantly, while Akechi and Izumi both feel a shock so intense, it might as well be physical. Aruse then calmly asks him what he thinks about that idea. The detective club's chaotic but oddly charming morning routines begin with their unofficial hero, Tasuku. He wakes up at exactly 6:15 a.m., brushing his teeth while scrolling through social media. Tasuku scrolls with the dedication of someone studying world politics, only it's just memes and cat videos. By 6:40, he's already packed his lunchbox and given his grandfather a cheerful good morning before heading out for school. On the other side of town, Aruse starts her morning like a true noble. A maid arrives to wake her at precisely 6:20. While the maid dresses her, Aruse casually scrolls through online news updates. She doesn't just get dressed, she's assembled like a luxury Gundam. At 7:20, she sits down for breakfast, only to be reminded by the maid that she's running late. But instead of reacting, she calmly silences the maid, saying she's currently busy admiring pictures of Tasuku. Izumi's mornings, in contrast, are a complete disaster. Without fail, she falls out of bed every day at 6:23. It's obvious that her alarm clock rings at 6 o'clock, but her body hits snooze via gravity. At 6:47, she spills her morning drink, and at 7:03, she burns her toast. Eventually, her little sister shows up and helps her get through the rest of her morning routine, turning chaos into a somewhat functional start.